Unplanned absence is disruptive. It's probably one of the most common frustrations that I talk to business owners about. It's part of the course for employing people. We can't get rid of it completely. Humans are not machines. They will get sick. And in this video, I'm going to keep referring to sickness absence. But of course, one of the challenges we've got is that not all unplanned absence is a result of the employee's own sickness. There'll be other issues like their children being sick, breakdowns in childcare, a partner being ill, perhaps having to deal with a death in the family, for example. All of these things are unplanned absences. And as soon as we get something that's unplanned, it means that everything that we had planned, the way that we were going to divide up our resources, get things done that day, or achieve what the client needed, all of these things get broken by somebody being off sick. And that's why it's such a source of frustration. It puts pressure on others in the team who have to pick up workload from the absence. I've dealt with companies where absence has got so high that they've got people simply employed to take phone calls about sickness and organise cover. And that is quite a significant expense. Organising cover alone could be expensive, let alone paying somebody to have to do that. So absolutely, sickness absence will happen. We cannot eradicate it completely, but we can reduce it. And that is really important, that as a business owner, you focus on reducing your sickness absence. It will reduce your frustrations. It will mean that you're more sure that when somebody is absent, that they really need to be, and that you're actually able to still get what the business needs as well. So here are my top tips. The simplest one is make people phone in. Don't accept a text message. It's so easy to send a text message from underneath the duvet, thinking, I don't want to get out of bed this morning. I just text and say I'm not going to be in. That's just too easy to do. If you've got to phone up at 9 o'clock, 8:30, whatever your time is, speak to your manager, explain why you're off sick, explain perhaps what things other people need to pick up for on your behalf. It makes you think about the absence. Now, it's not going to affect somebody who's genuinely ill. Somebody who's genuinely ill is perfectly going to be able to do this. But for those who are thinking, am I too sick to go to work, or could I just stay under the duvet today? It's going to make them think, actually, I've got to make the effort of in an hour's time to actually make that phone call. And can I be bothered? Should I just try it? The other thing as well is it makes people think, I'll just sort of try, have some breakfast, see how I go, and then call in if I'm still not feeling well. And again, that will make people in some ways kind of come out of what they've woken up feeling and actually get to work. So phone call, absolutely every time. And then following on from that, when they come back to work, a return to work interview. You must sit down and talk to people. Ask them why they were off sick. Ask them what they did, whether they saw a doctor, whether their symptoms are likely to return, whether there's anything in the workplace that can help them. This has a few reasons for this. One is it's supportive. So if somebody's struggling with something at work that's causing their absence, they're much more likely to open up about it if they know they've got one-to-one time with you. You're more likely to find out about it. Also, if they're thinking, am I really too sick? Or do I fancy a day on the beach? They know they've got to sit down and face you the next day. That's going to make them think as well about whether they really are too sick. And again, somebody who's genuinely sick is not going to have a problem with talking to you about their sickness the following day, especially if you're being supportive, if you're checking they're well enough to be back at work. And it enables you to think, well, actually, how many absences have we had recently? So I would always say, as part of this conversation, before you sit down with them, just check their absences for the past 12 months and just say, well, actually, you've had 8 days off in the past 12 months. Could there be a pattern to this? Is this something that we need to have a think about? And it just makes them realise that you're counting, and them realise as well the level of sickness that they've got. It can't just kind of go unnoticed. So those two things, absolutely crucial. If you stop this video now, give up and don't do any more, do those two things and it will have an impact. The third one then is record and monitor. And this fits in with them calling in and you do return to work interviews. Make sure that you've got a record of the days they were off sick, the length of time they were off sick for, and the reason for the absence, and actually whether it is their sickness or something else. Making sure you've got that reason really clear is really important. If you're doing the other two, recording will be really easy. It won't take any time at all. Just make a note of it. If you've got some kind of HR software, this is a really great tool for this because it will do all the reporting and things for you. But that record is so important. Once you've got somebody who's off sick too often and we need to deal with it, that record is going to be vital. If you haven't got that record, you'll need to go back and start making records before you can even deal with it. Number 4 is having a policy. So if you're really clear with people about what's expected of them, the fact they've got to phone in and not text, the fact you're going to have a return to work interview, explaining to people that you can seek medical opinions if you need to, if their absence is excessive. All of these things are really important to have written down so that you can manage absence and people again know what to expect. They know what they've got to do if they're off sick. They know where to go for that information, and they know that you're going to be doing this return to work interview. You're doing it for everybody and you're treating everybody equally. Again, crucially important. Finally, it's about your culture. Having a culture that people actually want to come to work in, where being a healthy employee is valued, where work-life balance is valued, where people are not put under excessive pressure and strain that causes burnout and causes people not only to feel like they just need time out and so they're going to be sick, but also will physically make them sick. It will increase your sickness absence if you're putting excessive pressure on people. So making sure that you've got a culture that sets expectations really clearly, people know what's expected of them, they've got the tools and resources to do that, and that it's not excessive, it's not pushing them beyond reasonable means that a human can actually achieve in a day. That's really important to having that healthy culture. It will reduce your sickness absence. But also so will things like flexibility or looking at, well, how sick is too sick? So if you can let somebody work from home, for example, how sick is too sick may well be different. They may well have a bit more flexibility at home to take a few more breaks. If they're perhaps a little less productive on that particular day, that might still be better for the business that they're there to deal with the urgent things than if they were just to call in sick. The same as allowing flexibility to attend appointments, for example. This can be really beneficial because it prevents somebody calling in sick to deal with those things. Most of those appointments are pre-planned. Pre-planned absence is far easier to deal with because you can work things around in advance and have less impact on people. Therefore, allowing that flexibility reduces people's need to take things like absence, bring in sick in order to deal with something they need to deal with in their personal lives. So when you've got a culture that recognises people have a life outside of work, gives them the flexibility to manage that and deal with it, you will find that you've got less sickness absence. And of course, what you can do in that will vary depending on the type of business that you are. If you want to read around this further, I have got a full article. The link is in the description below. If you've got any questions or comments, pop them in the comments below as well. Perhaps you've got some ideas on how to reduce absence. Pop them there for us all to see. And don't forget to subscribe to our videos to make sure that you don't miss a single one.